and welcome, John. So we're here for another video today, and we're going to be talking more about the sort of practical adoption of technology and research on farm. So do you want to just introduce yourself, John?
Yep. Hi, Becky. Thank you. Yes, I'm John Barrett. I'm Farms Director of Sentry. We're a farming business across the country, farming about 20,000 hectares on contract farmed, managed farmed, and FBT basis.
So I've got quite a few interesting questions for you today, but I thought maybe we could just start with how your role as a farmer or farms director has sort of changed over the last 10 years. How has things changed on farms? What are the responsibilities like now?
Well, I think that these days a farmer needs to be open and adaptable to change. As that's the speed of change, like most things in society, is happening so quickly. So I think as a farmer, you need to be ready for that change and open to it. You've got to be an open mind to all elements of the business, whether that's your employees, your agronomy, your land use demands, or the technology that's now employed on farms. So I think that speed of change is happening so quickly that's the bit that we've really got to focus on. The core skills, if you like, they probably haven't changed. So being motivated, being passionate about farming, about what you're doing is still really, really important, as well as being an inspiration to those around you. You've still got to be a leader. So you've got to do that, and you've got to be a coordinator. So you've got to coordinate all different aspects of the business that are there. So it really is a very multifaceted job, really. Perhaps, is that more than previously? I don't know. Others will have to judge that.
It's always really struck me about how much you have to juggle in your mind at one time. Like, you have to think about what you need done today. Like, we were talking about the weather. What's the weather doing so we can do this? But also what you're going to do next week and the next rotation and the next 10 years. And I couldn't keep all that in my head at once, to be honest.
I think some of it is surrounding yourself with good people, isn't it? If you've got people around you that can support you and help you to make those decisions, that's really, really important. So it's employing people that can do that and help you with that part of the business.
So let's think again, I suppose, still thinking about the last 10 years. What do you think might have been the most impactful thing you've seen, whether it's research, practices, technology, anything? Maybe it's mobile phone, I don't know, that's a bit cliche, but something that's really sort of changed the way you can farm.
Yeah, well, I think that probably GPS has been the big thing to come into farming. And I think if you went back 10 years ago, we obviously had GPS 10 years ago, but it probably wasn't used as much, certainly not as much as it is now, and it's still developing. But it was there as to drive tractors in straight lines and do combine yield maps. And so people put the nice maps up on the wall behind in the office, and it looked really good. But actually, what it has done, it's allowed that precision, the machines to be so much more precise than they were, and therefore there's been subsequent innovations around all of that, and that's sort of the big change, I suppose. We're using variable rate seeding to try and optimize the placement of that seed and therefore reducing your waste. Variable rate fertilizer, optimizing how much applied in one particular part of the field, with the aim being to try and reduce our impact on the surrounding environment. And spraying wise, you see it with sprayers automatically turning on and off. So again, not having overlap, and again reducing waste and hopefully reducing the environmental impact. So I sort of see, and that's all stemmed from GPS. They're just a few examples, but they've all stemmed from GPS technologies. So I think that probably is the main area that's impacted in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about quite how much sits on top of that. And I remember reading the other day when the Northern Lights were out that some of those farmers in the US were saying, "Oh, my GPS isn't working." But I guess then all those other things stopped working at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's where the sort of exciting new technology, well, some of the exciting new technologies will be developed on the back of this precision that we're able to achieve now.
Does it make it quite
Yeah.
like more difficult to manage the farm in some ways, and that you're having to be a bit more precise rather than perhaps being a bit broader and like, well, we'll do this with this field and that with that field, and now you can kind of think about much more detail? I don't know. Is that a lot more work? Maybe not if it's automated.
Well, that's right. I think, and the when you're adapting to different technologies, you want things that are intuitive to use, and therefore not creating a variable rate plan once you've done the groundwork isn't difficult at all. It's a very quick and easy job to do it. The technologies are there. It can see it, and you're just interpreting that technology into a variable rate plan, and so it's not that difficult to use, really. Like I say, you just got to be a bit open to it and see how you can make it work.
And put in the groundwork from the sounds of it. So it kind of leads me on to my next question, because I know you're quite keen on robotics and sort of automation and things like that. Could you want to talk a bit about that? Like, what's interesting about that? And I don't know, how have you found it?
Yeah, so we as a business started using the robotics for drilling and spraying and hoeing our sugar beet last year. We're doing it again this year, a 2-year project, and it's been quite challenging for our guys on the ground, because they've always drilled the sugar beet themselves and they really enjoy drilling the sugar beet. So get a robot in to actually come and drill it can be a bit challenging. But that's great, because I think that's really important to keep challenging ourselves. How can we do things differently? Is there a better way of doing something? The technology, and it has to start somewhere, doesn't it? So what we're doing, the drill on the robotics is quite a simple drill, and hoeing beet and band spraying is not new technologies. But once you've got the platform there, a little bit like the GPS story, hopefully we can build on that. And it achieves our aims of trying to reduce our environmental impact, because we're using less chemical. So that's great. We could have done that by just using a hoe and a band sprayer anyway on the back of a tractor. But it needed that sort of initiative to get it off the ground, and someone else coming in and saying, I'm going to try this and do this with something completely different. And I think that's how we've got to be. We've got to be ready to see different technologies, and this is just the start of it, isn't it? There's a huge amount coming, whether it be laser weeding or anything other than petrochemicals to control disease or weed, whatever it might be. I think that's going to be the critical bit, and how does robotics fit into that? And it also, of course, has a great benefit from a labour point of view. So labour on farms can be pretty tricky. Getting the amount of labour, certainly for menial tasks, getting numbers of people in. So if we can use robotics to replace some of that labour, great. But also, I think inspiring a new generation to come into the industry. We want people not necessarily who've just been on farmers' sons, but actually a wide group of people. So we bring different ideas, and actually hopefully this will appeal to them more so than just sitting on a tractor. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most exciting bit for me is always the robots. I'd do anything with the robots. So yeah, I think I'd agree. And sitting on the tractor is less exciting for me than going to work with a robot. But and I like what you're saying about it. Yes, I suppose right now it seems like it's quite a way off, because you're only using 1 or 2 and you're kind of trialing it. And yes, we could just do these jobs, but like you say, if we don't start somewhere, we're not going to progress anything, right?
That's right. We've got to try it.
You said it's like a 2-year project, and I know that we talk quite a lot about how long projects should be. I don't know, is that like long enough? Because I guess that's a couple of harvests, isn't it? From the farmer's point of view, it's quite difficult to file stuff for that reason. Sorry.
Yeah, it's slow, isn't it? It's really, farming's slow. It's one crop a year. Those sorts of crops anyway. It's not
Mm.
like growing leafy salads or something, with a quick turnaround, or well, in the bottom of the cans, what the widgets in the bottom of a can, factory producing widgets, was always the one, wasn't it? It's very slow, and so yeah, it does take time. And yes, maybe 2 years. 2 years probably isn't enough, but at least it gives you a point where you think, okay, what can we do next? We've done this for 2 years. What's worked? What hasn't worked? What can we do next to actually go to the next level,
Yeah.
and do it even better? So I think
Yeah.
it's not a
No
bad
problem.
thing, time constraint.
Yeah. And
Because
then
if you
perhaps
don't,
you
sorry, I was going to say, if it hasn't worked, what can you do next better, as opposed to just keep going, doing the same thing,
yeah.
trying to tweak it a little bit, but actually, can you take the next leap
Mhm.
into doing something a lot better?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Or do you need an extra tool on it, or do you need it to change like this, and then that's how you can then do the next 2 years, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly,
I told you,
exactly.
I get carried away with robots. So that's, I can kind of see your vision here. So I guess I'd lead into then. Is there anything else, maybe aside from robotics? What do you think would make a big change in the next 10 years?
I think that the technology, that's whether it be the gene editing, I'm sure will make a huge difference in the next 10
Mhm.
years, because we have to move away from this petrochemical use. And if we can, this year is a great case in point, a real high disease pressure year, and we're all out spraying because we've got
Mm.
no choice. But actually, if we can develop these varieties into things that don't require as much, that's got to be a positive, to reduce our impact. So I see that as a big plus. And also, when we are spraying, if we can develop technologies that are clever and they can see the weeds, and only spray where they actually need to, or might not be spraying, it might be lasers, but
Mm.
something that sort of see and spray technology, or see and control technology, I can see that coming forward, as an exciting part of the future for UK ag.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, trying to get down those inputs, especially in the last few years, we've kind of seen why we need to prioritize that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we also, we need to be, we're connecting more with the consumer. Agriculture is connecting more with the consumer. They're understanding the demands of sustainability, of carbon impact. And I think we've got to be clever about telling our story about what we're doing, and how this technology is really a positive thing for how we produce food, and perhaps make people realize that the offshoring of or importing of food, and therefore offshoring our carbon and sustainability, is not a good thing. So we need technologies to help us to be able to grow more food in the UK that the consumer wants. We can be we can have food security by importing food. I understand that, but that does mean that we're not that we're offshoring some of those responsibilities. And actually, if we can use technology to be able to grow more and develop how we grow products, whether that be flax, which we're trying at the moment in the south of England, or hemp, or sunflowers, a lot of these products are all imported, but could we develop technology to help us to be able to grow those, so we haven't got to import it, and then we grow it to a standard that the UK consumer is happy with? That's where I think that could be the big win-win, I think, for UK ag and the consumer.
That question was really on my mind, actually, whether you think these new varieties, yeah, exactly that, whether we should be sort of advertising to consumers. Because I bought some strawberries the other day, and I looked, and like all 4 packets are different varieties, but they all taste different and they behave different. But at the moment, we're not really aware of that, consumers. But I agree. I think as time goes on, people will know what they're doing and what they're buying,
Yeah.
actually. So that's really interesting. And if you can say,
People
I've
get
used this,
smarter, don't they? They use their
yeah,
technology. They use their phone as they go around, and when they shop, they're smarter, and they have more. They have a conscience, and they know what they want. And so we have to adapt
mm,
and fit to that.
Absolutely, I'm behind you on that. Have you got any sort of further thoughts on the visions for agriculture? I think you've kind of answered it, but anything you've missed?
I think I have answered
You
it.
can answer it, yeah. No, I think
uh,
that's a really interesting
yeah.
vision.
No, I think I'm happy. I think you got to be careful as well. You don't go too big, isn't it? But too
Yeah.
wide. But I think that growing food that people want in a way that they want it is has got to be the focus for UK ag. I would have thought.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, on that note, then I will say thank you so much for your time. It's been super interesting, and I can really see this picture coming together of how it's going to look almost from the field itself, and rather than the pull from the other end. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure, Becky. Good to speak to you.
Very nice to see you.
Bye.